Good morning and welcome to today's thought for the day. My name is John Towler and I'm an associate priest in the Avon Valley Church's benefice. I felt sad and angry last week at the news that a dear friend and colleague of mine had been rushed into hospital and remains on a ventilator suffering from the coronavirus. I was angry because over the past 20 years, she has given herself, along with her colleagues, to work with the violated, the threatened, and the marginalized of our society. She has and is a candle in the dark, a beacon of hope, rekindling fragile flames of a new life for so many women and their families. Why am I so angry? Well, because she gives so much and it seems so unfair for this wretched virus to snatch her from her work and life. Where are you, God, in all of this, I ask? If you are tempted to rage against God from time to time, don't stop yourself. Just know that divine love can take it. I recall the story of a mother who takes a birthday cake for her son who is ill in hospital. On the way to the hospital, she pops into the church, sits at the back and mumbles an inordinate prayer, asking for her son's healing. On arrival at the hospital, she is greeted with the news that her son has died. Stricken with grief and anger, she calls into the church on the way home, climbs the steps to the high altar, and smashes the cake against the crucifix in her rage. Know that divine love can take it all. I wanted to imagine that I am the next person that this woman meets. What do I do? How do I respond? I may feel tongue-tied, indeed a little frightened for fear of saying something crass. Her despair confronts me with my own sense of loss and despair. The degree to which I have faced my own despair will be the degree to which I can face her despair without fear. Maybe just being with her, beside her, with no clever biblical text to offer, for that might seem what a spiritual writer calls the salt water of spiritual consolation. We are both facing the arid desert of despair. This is reality. So I return to my own sense of anger and despair at the plight of my friend and colleague, fighting for her life in intensive care. Whilst I do not hold God responsible for causing this pandemic, I have to believe that he has a share in the suffering of humanity, demonstrated so eloquently in the life, death, and resurrection of his son Jesus. I feel hopeless, like so many other people, faced with such crises, not just with the virus, but the effect the virus has had on people's lives, mental health issues, the unknownness of future livelihoods, the considerable insecurity facing everyone. That sense of hopelessness was shared with Jesus on the cross as we listen to his cry of dereliction. My God, why have you forsaken me? Did he imagine at that moment that life in all its fullness was just around the corner? We do not know. What we do know is that Jesus willingly faced his accusers and persecutors with such trust that God was with him every step of the way. But our faith does not stand on a dead Jesus. It stands on the firm foundation of Jesus Christ being raised by God to a new sphere of being alive in the world. We know he turned up in unexpected places to unexpecting people, his disciples among them. As a spiritual writer amusingly puts it, he pops up all over the place like a jack-in-the-box, in the most unlikely places and the most unlikely times. On Easter Eve, the priest says these words in blessing the Paschal candle: all times belong to him. Then, now, in every moment, in every meeting, in this time of my sadness and upsetness about my colleague in intensive care, he is fully present, sharing my humanity and hers. His love is working overtime for me and my colleague. It is a love which will never let us go, whatever the circumstance. It is a constant gift, beckoning us to share in the divine love, however we are feeling. There is no magic about this. There is no coercion on his part, simply a constant offer of love. That is the work that the church calls redemption, or perhaps in better words, we might call wholeness or healing. But suffering we cannot escape. It is part of our human lot to be embraced rather than evaded. And be careful not to trivialize it, nor offer saltwater platitudes in our caring for others. Our job is a patient being with, alongside, with love and compassion in our hearts, in both prayer and action. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. It will be shocking, terrifying, miserable, painful, scary, and maybe at times drive us to very dark places. My friend Richard Raw provides us with a public health warning about suffering. Do not pass it on, he says. Listen to his words. If we do not find ways of transforming our pain and suffering, we shall only pass it on and on, which will lead to more bitterness, conflict, and destroying of lives. Because God is part of who we are, our pain and our suffering can be transformed if we will allow this. It needs our active cooperation. When that happens, forgiveness will heal. Human crucifixions will lead to human resurrections and not remain dead-end tragedies. Love will win through. Last Sunday, we celebrated Candlemas, the occasion when the parents of Jesus presented to God in the temple, part of the Jewish rites of purification. What a surprise it must have been for his parents to meet those two wise, elderly and prophetic worshippers, Simeon and Anna. Here they hear something of the destiny of their son, Jesus. He is to be one who will enlighten, illuminate others by his life and beyond life. He truly is our candle in the dark. The flame may seem very fragile for us at times, particularly in such times as these. But flicker it does, and it will never be extinguished. And so today, once again, we are invited to dance to the light, which has so many tunes. In these tunes, the mystery of God beckons us to lift our gaze and our hearts beyond the darkness of Good Friday to the glorious light of Easter Day, when that process of reconnection between God and humanity was made indivisible. The dance goes on. Darkness still exists, and the light overcomes it. Our pain and suffering and that of others remain, and faith in the loving purposes of God offers hope and a love which will forever shine and never let us go. Thank you for listening.